This year's theme for Women's Month was Women's Socioeconomic Rights and Empowerment, Building Back Better for Women's Improved Resilience. Today, women are still faced with significant socioeconomic challenges. I am Busisipho Siyobi, lead researcher at GGA, and here to shed light on the subject is my colleague Chrissy Dube, the head of the Governance Insights and Analytics program. I want you to just paint to us some of the challenges that women face in Africa as a whole.
Some of the persistent challenges faced by women in Africa are fueled by a number of factors. These range from individual factors, they range from family, sociocultural, as well as corporate and organizational factors. And all of these factors lead to stereotyping of women, which is, I think, one of the greatest challenges faced by women today.
What are some of the stereotypical views that are faced by women on the African continent?
The first one goes without saying is that women are the primary caregivers in the society. While that is true, they are sometimes reduced to being only caregivers, and they can do so much more. I believe that women are excellent multitaskers. They can be a primary caregiver and still do many other things. And it goes without saying that one of the most common statements that you'll hear behind every successful man is a woman. Why does it have to be behind?
Let's then touch on some of the barriers of entry for women within the African continent, specifically when they want to participate in the economy.
Firstly, you'd find that in rural areas or in remote areas, simple prioritization of funds when there needs to be a choice for education between a male child and a female child. The parents would find themselves having to pick the male child because they might seem to be more economically active or more able, while the daughter would be considered to be a better caregiver or to do the other chores like fetch water from the river or take care of the siblings. So when it comes to prioritization, women are always subject to men, and men always find themselves having the first preference and the first advantage therefore. And it's the same economically. You see that women have unequal remuneration and far less than the men do, even if it's the same positions. The offers that women would get would be slightly less with the same amount of experience and qualification as opposed to the men.
How have African governments intervened through particular initiatives that you could highlight that are aimed to address these socioeconomic challenges?
I'd like to give a case of South African government in particular in this example, where we see the Employment Equity Act. We see that there has been affirmative action as well. And all of these things speak to the equality of women in the corporate space and even in the economy. And South Africa has also participated in the international landscape where they've contributed to protocols that advance gender equality.
You speak of Business Association of South Africa, which released a report covering women in leadership. Can you please share with us some of the key takeaways from that report?
In the report, we find that only 27% of women are directors and about 29% are in executive management, and this is from the organizations that participated in that survey. And this is a relatively low figure, particularly when we're trying to achieve gender equality. It's way less than 50% of women in managerial positions or in top positions, and I think there is still some room for improvement in that regard.
Have there been any immediate interventions that have been put in place to address some of these issues?
If they are there haven't been enough, because what you'll see with the JSE top 40 companies that are listed. In 2017, there was only one company that had a female CEO. And here we are in 2022, and the number has only increased to 4 companies. I believe that more could be done in that front. And while there has been some improvements with females in the law enforcement sector and female judges, and a vast improvement with female politicians, there is still so much more because the numbers are low, the stats are low, and it's not necessarily reflective of equality, but rather reflective that there still needs to be more improvement for women to be fully embraced and empowered in the African society.
What could be done differently or better to implement gender equality processes?
Only 20% of African countries have legal constitutional rights that allow women to own property or own land within the constitution. That's just one example. I feel like there is a lot of legislature within African communities and the various African countries, but there lacks effective implementation of it from an economical perspective right down to a corporate and a societal perspective. We have the legal framework, we have the laws in place. The governments need to work more on ensuring that they're effectively implemented across the board.
Chrissy, thank you very much for sharing those insights. African governments need to investigate and improve the implementation of gender equality processes. In this way, women will be strengthened and human rights and gender equality advanced to enable inclusive and sustainable economic development. For more in-depth discussions on policy matters in Africa, please join us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.